Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Look, Wrestling 101, classes in session. Pay attention to the teachings, that's from Andrew and Derek. I mean, these guys making a killing with no competition. Dynamic duo better than the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. Everybody make some noise, mess with them, you get destroyed. They cannot be beat, take a seat. Watch them do their thing on the MIC. Face defeat, they cannot be seen like JC. Oh my goodness, it's a killing spree.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Monster Mac from the Hit Squad, the most famous non-TV talent on TV today. You're listening to Wrestling IQ 101 podcast, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to ever. You guys should definitely check their stuff out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wrestling IQ 101. I'm Andrew alongside Derek.
Yep. And
you can follow Wrestling IQ 101 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. At Wrestling IQ 101. You can subscribe right here on YouTube with the B Plus Player Network. And today we're joined by the Warhorse, Jake Parnell. How's it going, man?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Here to yell in everybody's ears and get real loud.
Yeah, you got Andrew nervous already. He can't talk just thinking about it, man.
No. I don't know what the hell a warhawk is.
Warhorse, yeah, you're the Warhorse. And, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited, man. You know, I guess we'll start off with what's coming up soon. I mean, you're going to be part of the Garden State Invitational for Synergy Professional Wrestling. You know, July 20th. You know, how excited are you to get that invite?
I'm incredibly excited, actually. I had to move some dates around to make sure I had room to fit the booking.
Yeah. Because
I had a different obligation up in Wisconsin, but I told them how important the Garden State Invitational was, so I canceled that, and now I'm coming to New Jersey.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, in the first round you got Brandon Kirk. I don't know what should the fans expect from this match from two great athletes on the independent scenes.
Well, if you know anything about Brandon Kirk, you know he's going to bleed everywhere, and if you know anything about the Warhorse, you know the Warhorse is going to make him bleed everywhere. So that's what's to be expected.
Nice, that sounds good.
Sure, absolutely. I can't even tell you how excited I am for this show. I mean, it's the event of the summer here in Jersey for sure. I mean, as that tournament progresses and if you advance, who are some of the guys that you want to end up facing?
Oh man, well, I cut a promo for the event, pointing out that it's not about who I face in the finals, it's about who faces me in the finals.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I'd love to take on Jonathan Gresham at some point, and then I'd love to take on Homicide. So, if I see either of them in the finals, I'd love to take the opportunity just to show them what the Warhorse is all about.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, the way they currently have the brackets set up, once you make Brandon Kirk bleed everywhere, the next round you're going to have to fight either Homicide or Jonathan Gresham. So you're going to get your wish on one of those for sure.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted.
so it definitely sounds good. If I get the wish for what I want, I think I want to see you in Homicide, man. I think that'll just be nuts.
I kind of wonder if the building will be able to hold that, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I'm notorious for brawling, and Homicide's a legend of brawling across the building, across the United States, tearing up buildings left and right. So I don't know if that building can literally contain if that match happened.
Yeah, I hope Synergy has some insurance.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And if it does come down to me and Gresham, he's a technical wizard, so I'll just punch him a lot.
Right?
That's a good way to counter it, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing event. The buzz has been so fantastic for this event. I mean, you talk about a collection of superstars from all parts of the country. I mean, even the matches that are not part of the Invitational are just stellar matchups for the whole night. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of those nights that people will never forget for sure. And it's great to see that you're part of that. But you've also had a history of being a part of history-making shows. We've been part of Jersey All Pro Wrestling, CCW, GCW, Beyond Wrestling. I mean, you just make it a habit of just traveling, right?
Yeah, no, if you look at just the resume alone, I've done some really crazy stuff that maybe at some points I had no business doing. Like the whole Jersey All-Pro thing was within my first 2 years of wrestling.
Sure.
I've been to Canada 6 times. I've been to Mexico 4 times. I've done a lot of stuff that not a lot of people have, looked at and realized.
Nice. Now, fighting outside of the U.S., like, what's been your favorite place to wrestle, or is it just like, each place you go to is just it has its own, feelings for you?
Each place is definitely different, but the two that stand out the most are Alpha One up in Canada, and NGX down in Monterey, because the fans at both of those places, they're different, but they're the same. You know what I mean? There's a level of appreciation for what's going on in the ring, but it's just, the atmospheres are completely different than anything here in the States.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Earlier today I spoke to Steve Mack, and he wanted to tell you hello, but also he also in a prior interview that I had with him, he called you a road warrior because you do all this traveling and this and that. When you get in that car and you drive to other places, even if you're not booked, do you think that's kind of the stuff that people are starting to really notice? Like, you'll come from anywhere to and participate, even if you're not originally booked.
Well, first, hi Steve, how you doing? Second, I do think people realize the lengths that I'm willing to go to get to shows, because I've had times where I've drove 16 hours up to Fargo, North Dakota. I've had times where I've driven 20 hours to the East Coast. I had one trip with the rest of the Vikings. It was 28 hours to Las Vegas, then another 4 hours to Los Angeles, then another 8 hours up to Sacramento, and then 35 hours home.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So we lived
crazy.
in a car for like 5 days.
Nice.
Woo.
Yeah, that's definitely a serious passion right there. What gives you that drive to just keep going and just doing whatever you have to do and sacrificing to be a wrestler?
Well, I mean, you either love wrestling or you don't, and it's really easy to say you work hard until you actually have to do hard work.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. For you, when you first found that love for wrestling, what was that moment, or do you have that moment, or what was that thing that helped that passion to be built in you that made you say, hey, I really want to take this serious and I want to be a wrestler?
Honestly, I don't know. I've always, as far back as I can remember, I've not that I'm downing anybody that has a dream to be a wrestler, but it was never a dream. It was just something that I knew I was going to do. And I think that's the difference. A dream is very hopeful and optimistic, and something like a passion that you have to do, you're just going to do it regardless. So it doesn't matter how many miles or whatever happens to my body, I'm going to do this. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's crazy because the last time we spoke, it was right at JP, right after you competed against Mike Orlando, TJ Marconi and the Greek god Papadon, and we didn't even think you would make it to that match. You had an injury to your mouth, and can you explain to people what happened?
So, I've been wrestling with Gary J. We've been feuding for the past 2 years. For anybody that's unfamiliar, that's who I was wrestling whenever this instance took place. And this is why I hate him, and this is why we fight everywhere now, because he took the top turnbuckle off, left it attached to the ring ropes, and he stuck it in my mouth, and he threw me out of the ring, and it ripped out of my face.
Oh, man.
So my lip was literally hanging off of my face, and I got back into the ring and wrestled another 6 minutes against Gary and beat his ass with a chair and stuff. But that's why I had a lot of people that didn't think I was going to make it to Jersey All-Pro, but I was actually back 2 weeks later after that incident, and I had like 4 shows lined up that I didn't miss. So
that's incredible. I was watching that match. I mean, you looked like a fish, on that hook. and then I remember I heard somebody say there was blood everywhere, and it was amazing how you got back in that ring and competed with an injury that severe at the time.
Like, I constantly get people telling me that it healed up really well, and I wish it didn't. I wish it was way more noticeable because it's one of the most traumatic things that's ever happened to me, and I can't even really show people unless they're like 6 inches from my face now.
Oh man.
Oh wow.
Well, hey.
Yeah, it's actually aggravating. I wish it looked way worse.
So man. Well, hey, at least you have like, you know, documented footage of it if you ever want to show it to someone.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, and like you can bring it up if you mess with the contrast on pictures and stuff like that. You can see it, but in matches and stuff, whenever if you're looking at GIFs or watching some of my matches on IndieWrestling.tv, like you can't notice it.
Yeah, true. Damn. So why the name the Warhorse? I mean, pretty much it fits you to a T. But what made you come up with that name, and what does it mean to you?
So, I always felt on the inside. I never really showed it outside that nothing could keep me down, that I would be able to fight through anything. But it's hard to explain that and show that until you actually get an opportunity to. And really, the turnbuckle thing gave me the opportunity to show, okay, like you can try and cut my head off. I'm still gonna, get up and keep fighting until I'm done. So.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's pretty much where I drew the whole Warhorse name from. Was just something I felt inside, and then I had to find a way to express it.
True.
Yeah, I see that in all your matches. Every match you've had, I've seen you in. You always have that warrior mentality. I was actually there a while back for your debut at Jersey All Pro Wrestling. The Viking War Party. I mean, it was just incredible against the Hooligans and Butcher. I mean,
oh my God.
What a night! What a night that was.
So, before the match, Necro came up to us and he goes, "Look, I had half a sheet of acid. I drank a bunch of beers. I gave the other half of the acid to my driver. I don't know where he is, and we're gonna call it all out there."
Yeah.
So. In that match, he punched me in the head twice, and I had 4 lumps in the back of my head.
Oh yeah.
4 lumps. I don't know where the math came from, but.
You know what the funniest part was? I remember somebody throwing a chair and then hitting the cameraman. You remember that?
I don't. No, I have trouble remembering that because I got punched in the head twice and had 4 lumps.
Yeah. I just thought that was like the funniest thing. Like this innocent bystander to this match. I mean, that's how dangerous, the 3 of you, the 6 of you guys were out there. I mean, what a debut that was. And there was that Rawway Rec Center filled up, and you guys were in a pretty decent spot on that show.
Yeah, I think there were 2,000 people on that one.
Yeah, it could have been. And I remember you coming out with the Viking helmet on. You were, and I heard in interviews that you were a Viking in training.
Pretty much. I mean, I was in training for a lot of things. I don't even think I was 2 years into wrestling yet at that point.
Oh man.
Did you get any did you watch the Hurricane, right? For a little bit he had a superhero in training. Did you get any hints of how to really become a Viking from those guys?
No, because originally that's what it was supposed to be. Was not supposed to be a Viking in training.
Uh-huh.
But then I just kind of went nuts and ran with it instead of. If somebody else would have been given the gimmick, maybe they would have fought against it, and then it would have made more sense to do the Viking in training. But because I rolled with it and just started going nuts and shaking my head around and doing the whole Huss thing, people started buying into it. So then they were like, "Oh, well, that's what you're supposed to do, so that's fine. We don't have to tell you you're in training. You're just a Viking now." Yeah,
no, it definitely makes sense. Now for you, do you have that one match that sticks out to you that you're like, you realize hey, I'm really doing this and I'm good at this. Did you have that one match that just sticks out to you, your first good match?
Oh, my first good match?
Yeah, the first one that stuck out to you.
It was probably at St. Louis Anarchy, but there's 2 that are jumping out at me. There was the time me and Alex, as a Viking War Party, took on the Hooligans in a tag match there. And then there was another time where it was me and Alex with the Hooligans versus the Cause, which was Evan Jalistico, Danny Adams, Austin Blackburn, and Adam Castor. And I don't know if you're familiar with any of those guys, but they're primarily St. Louis guys, except for Jalistico. He's done Chikara and stuff like that. But it was a 4-on-4 Survivor Series thing, and Austin got eliminated first, right? And then slowly they all got picked off, so I was the last one. I eliminated 2 more of their guys, and then it was down to me and Danny Adams. And then the ref got knocked out. I had Danny Adams pinned, and it was a ref slid in, and it was 1-2, and then the ref didn't count. And I looked, and it was Austin who slid in with a referee shirt on, because he also used to referee at Anarchy. And they cheated and won the match, but it's basically what I'm getting to is the crowd lost their shit and started breaking stuff and throwing things because they're like, it's not fair. You can't be in the match and a referee. And it was like a surreal thing where I almost felt like I got a high from it. It was just different and neat.
Nice, definitely. Now, do you have now your favorite match of all time? I don't know if it's one of those 2 matches, but just transitioning to where you are now. Is there a match that you have with someone you wrestled that you consider your favorite match?
Well, I hate Gary J too much to tell him I have a favorite match with him. So I don't really have favorite matches. I just have matches that I've been enjoying.
Yeah.
Like I wrestled Jaden Newman for Scenic City, and that was a fun 12-minute story. I wrestled Shotzi Blackheart the other week at Bizarro Lucha. That was a good one. I wrestled Ace Perry over at Iron Spirit Pro in Illinois. That was fun. It's literally the past 2 months I've been having really good matches that I think are on a consistent level. You know what I mean? To where I'd be happy to show anybody the matches I've been having lately.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they speak for themselves. Let me ask you this. What are some of your go-to things when you're in that car for that 12-hour drive, that 35-hour drive? What are some of the things that you need to have on you? Is it whether it be a snack or something with that keeps you entertained while you're in the passenger seat?
Honestly, I just keep my phone handy. I constantly scroll through Facebook and Twitter, and that's just all the time. No, that's not carload specific. Usually, whenever I get stuck on carloads with people, I try to make the most of it, and everybody usually has fun by the end of it. So.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have like a place where you have to stop, like Waffle House or Cracker Barrel, or is it just wherever is open?
Wherever they sell Bang energy drinks at.
Oh yeah, energy drinks.
Gotta have the energy drinks. Definitely, for sure. Now, compared to the East Coast, how is the independent wrestling scene in Missouri? Like, are there any differences or similarities between the 2?
Well, do you like corn?
Sometimes.
Oh, we got plenty of it, brother. Come on down. No, so Missouri, you have to have a license. So typically, anything noteworthy that's in this area is on the Illinois side. So like Glory Pro, St. Louis Anarchy, stuff like that's on the Illinois side. But as far as like the Midwest scene, it almost blurs with the Southern scene right now.
Okay.
There's a lot of interchanging back and forth between that, and it's really healthy. There's a lot more, noticeably from the time I started to now, there's a lot more people traveling and willing to work with each other, and promotions that are working with each other. I think the biggest thing keeping the Midwest and Southern scenes from working with the East Coast as much is the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Oh man!
Like legitimately, it's like $45 to go from one end to the other.
Yeah, it is kind of expensive.
Yeah, and then New Jersey has its own thing, but in my opinion, that's what's keeping a lot of wrestling from the Midwest from going to the East Coast, and vice versa.
Yeah, but it's crazy because we're on the East Coast and it has literally the best wrestling.
Oh man, it's and like that's where everybody watches too. You know what I mean? Like the fans in the East Coast are different than the Midwest fans. The Midwest fans, even if they're on Twitter and they're paying attention to like who's in and who's out, they're still more worried about their home promotion. But East Coast fans, they're like, what's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we just move so fast over here. We just need to be nosy too. That's our problem.
But no, seriously, we love everybody and they're wrestling from all different parts of the country. But yeah, we're a little spoiled because, you know, right here in Jersey is a hotbed because we're, you know, where Derek and I are, we're only about an hour outside of Philly and an hour outside of New York. And, you know, and every major company, you know, comes through here and every major star. So we kind of get like, you know, if you're wrestling in New Jersey or New York or Philadelphia out here, you know you've kind of made somewhat of an impact.
Right, and the other thing too is the difference between where I'm at versus where you guys are at. A 5-hour drive for you guys pass up, I don't know, 20 or 30 different promotions.
Yeah.
But here it's like 5 hours in between each promotion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, keep the corn handy for sure.
But
Yeah.
hey,
Hope you like it.
well, that's why I like it because you get to come out here and you get to be part of so many of the different wrestling promotions that have been out here in Jersey, from CCW to GCW to JPW. I mean, you know, how was that the first time knowing that JP has such a historic history? People, you know, almost, you know, they were neck and neck at one point in time with Ring of Honor, and they were holding their own with independent wrestling companies, and you're being, you know, a part of this, not just, you know, outside the ring, but being featured as, you know, in different matches.
Yeah, so with something like that, maybe I don't have a favorite match, but that might be my favorite thing I've been a part of, just because it's such a hard thing to break into, especially for someone from the Midwest. And I don't even mean like Ohio. I mean like, you know, 3 states over in Missouri. Like, that's such a hard thing to get to. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to do it and make connections from that, which now I don't know what their schedule is or what they're planning as far as events. I've heard it's going to be once a year, but I'm not for certain. But it's just nice to know that if someday I do extra work or someday I get looked at or something like that, all the old hats up at the WWE, if I point out that I did Jersey All-Pro, you know, I could talk to them about Dan Moff and Monster Mac and, you know, Fat Frank and stuff like that. Same thing goes for like IWA Mid-South. Like, you can... Not a lot of people get the chance to wrestle there, but once you do, you have that experience, and then you can go up to, you know, everybody on the main roster at WWE. You can go up to them and be like, "Yep, fucking Ian," and they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. It must be a good feeling knowing that, you know, you're in good companies where people have prospered outside of those places. But there's a match in particular that I wanted to talk to you about because, you know, it is, you know, one of the most elite matches that JP has, and that is the best of the light heavyweights. And you were in there with Anthony Bennett, who had just come off the Cruiserweight Classic, Homicide, Dane DeMonto, Matt McIntosh, Brandon Watts, a guy you know pretty well, and Anthony Gangone, and of course the amazing Rory Gulak. I mean...
Yeah, I was going to say, you better bring up Rory Gulak.
Yeah, I wasn't going to leave him out.
Oh man, he's too amazing. You can't leave him out.
Yeah, I mean, just knowing that, you know, you're in this ring with these other guys who are considered the best in what they do, and knowing that, yeah, there's a lot, you know, you see a guy like Rory Gulak, and yeah, like you got to bring your best when you're with these guys, right?
No, 100%. And Rory Gulak, like, the whole reason me and him are friends now, well, not the whole reason, but when I first met him, it was at a couple Beyond shows because with the Vikings we would go up and do Beyond here and there, and he never really remembered me from that. But then I decided one day that I needed to go out and do one of the Jersey All-Pro tapings because they started to do tapings and plan a couple bookings in advance and stuff. And I wanted to get on to being best of the light heavyweights, so I was like, oh, what a better opportunity than this. I'm just going to drive out to fucking Jersey and do my thing. So I did that. I showed up. I helped set up the ring. Rory showed up to the building. And he was just kind of hanging out. And I went up and reintroduced myself because at the time I was like, nobody's going to remember me from the Viking shit, especially since I'm not wearing it anymore. So I reintroduced myself. And he's like, oh, okay. And he kind of seemed standoffish at first. But then he asked me to chain with him, and I did some weird British shit that I don't like. I don't chain wrestle in matches, but like that doesn't mean I can't. Like I used to be a huge British wrestling mark, so I did this weird fucking reversal, and he was like, "Oh," and then he was my buddy after that. So I was like, "All right."
It's crazy. These small things create friendships, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was like some kind of weird frat house handshake I just pulled out, and then he's like, "Oh, we're buddies." You know what I mean?
Sweet.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Definitely. Now with all your amazing talents that you have in the ring, can you tell us that something that not the regular fan would know that the Warhorse has as a hobby or a talent outside of the ring?
Oh man, I can build anything.
Yeah. So you're a handyman.
Yeah, 100%. I have a bunch of projects that the day before the Garden State Invitational is St. Louis Anarchy for me, so I'll be in St. Louis, and I'm literally debuting a ton of stuff that night that I've been working on, and going forward, my whole gimmick is just gonna look and seem different and polished, and I've been working on this for a while, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm debuting then that I've been working on with my hands-on stuff. If you follow me on social media, you'll see me talk about the Horsepower Gym, which is a gym I basically built. I built, I think, 4 out of the 5 things in there are made of wood. Like I made a preacher bench out of wood. I made my own weight racks. I made a calf raise machine. I built a bunch of shit out of wood, and I'm convinced I can build anything if I really want to.
Nice. So you destroy people in the ring and create stuff outside of the ring.
Oh yeah, that's all I do.
Nice.
Actually, I was going to ask you about the Horsepower Gym. I mean, how did that come about? And now you're taking on all comers in there.
Yeah, so the whole reason I got the gym in the first place was because my girlfriend couldn't park her car in there because it was too steep to get in. So luckily she had a tiny car, and now I have a gym that I'm constantly in there. I'm selling promos for $5 a piece out of there. I do custom promos. I've done promos announcing a woman's pregnancy.
Wow.
I've like done promotional material for shows down in Mexico because they needed some English advertising, so I did some of that. I've done like a lot of different random promos for $5. So I'm constantly screaming out there in the gym, and then I'm like, what else can I do out here? So I had an open challenge, and I had somebody come wrestle me for the Outlaw Pro Wrestling Championship. So we brawled all the way in the alleyway, through the gym. I almost broke my fan. I need to get a new fan now. And then we brawled into the backyard, beat each other up, and I did a double stomp off my deck. Wow. So that's pretty much how that came about, was what else can I do with my gym besides just work out in it? And now, I don't know if you've been checking me out on Facebook or Twitter, but I announced the sequel to the Horsepower Gym Open Challenge. Are you guys ready for it?
What's that?
It is the Horsepower Gym Mega Rumble. We're going to have 10 wrestlers come into my gym, and we're all going to fight inside that tiny-ass gym, and you have to eliminate each other by throwing them out of the gym. So the last person left in the gym wins the belt.
Oh, shit, man.
Wow.
That's pretty dope, man.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
So,
you know what the worst part is?
what's that?
I know we're not all going to fit.
Oh,
and
man.
I'm excited, and I'm asking like the biggest dudes that I know to be in this thing, and I know we're not going to fit, and it's going to look ridiculous, and I'm going to be so happy to just chuck people out in my alley.
That's funny. This sounds like the Heart Dungeon, man. Like, you're just bouncing off of all those hard items in there.
Well, I mean, if you haven't seen the match, go check it out on YouTube. It's just Horsepower Gym Open Challenge. And I don't want to try and have a bunch of singles matches like that because I think eventually they're going to get real similar and they're not going to be very creative. Like each person brings their own, their own seasoning to the soup. But if we do something different each time, like the concept's different, then it'll stay fresh and more exciting that way.
Somebody bought a bazooka to your house.
Yeah, that fucker tried to kill me. That was Graham Bell. He was bitching at me because I didn't bring him up in the promo announcing the Mega Rumble. So I'm bringing him up now. That's Graham Bell. He's been hitting it hard too. Yeah. He's one of those guys. I'm sure you've seen him at Wrestlers Lab and Battle Club and stuff like that. He's he's constantly driving everywhere.
Yeah, it's, he's amazing. Yeah, I have seen him a couple times for sure. But yeah, I mean, he comes with a bazooka to your house. How can that content ever get stale when someone's coming to your house with a weapon?
Well, that's the first one, and it's like, how the fuck do you top that? We'll just have 9 more people show up. So
yeah, I love it. I'm invested in it. I can't wait to see this Rumble. It sounds like a cross between that hardcore title and some some good stuff, man. I really like that idea.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's great. Another match that I was there for was you versus the Rejects. The GCW.
Oh yeah. Boy, that was a match.
How is it? Because GCW and of course, they can get a little violent. That's an understatement. But I mean, how was it being part of an event like that and a match like that as well?
Oh, it was fucking awesome. So I never did a death match up to that point. I think everything I've ever done was like hardcore brawls and like tables and shit. So we had barbed wire and thumbtacks and staple guns. So that was fun to see how I'd fare doing that. I don't hate it. I don't know why nobody's asked me to do a death match since. Like, I'm fine with it. We can do that. But the environment, I fucking love all the Game Changer fans because they pay attention and they're there not because it's the popular cool thing to do. They're there because they want to watch some fucking wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some promotions where there's fans, but they're there because their buddy told them to go, and they're there because they're like, drinking cheap draft beer, and they're there because it's like the scene, and they're just there to have fun. But Game Changer fans are different because they're like, oh man, I just want to watch some fucking wrestling like right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure.
And performing in front of that type of fans, to me, is more important than performing in front of casuals because they have higher expectations because they know what wrestling's supposed to look like, and if you don't give it to them, they're gonna fucking cut your balls off.
Yeah, definitely, that's for sure.
Yeah, I bet you would want to keep those.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now with companies like GCW, blowing up, with their big shows they do during WrestleMania weekend, just the debut of AEW, things like that. For an independent wrestler, does it like change the course of, the natural of everyone trying to go towards WWE? And do you look at it as, hey, I could just make it on the indies? Or is something like trying to get to WWE still the goal for, independent wrestlers?
I enjoy what wrestling used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily enjoy the product that WWE has now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I don't want to work there. It's just I don't want to work there if I don't think I'm going to be happy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not that they've even offered the thing. This is just us talking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not assuming I'm going anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's the biggest boom period independent wrestling has ever had. It's the best I've ever seen it in the 6 years that I've been wrestling. And I'm mad about it. Not in anyone in particular. I'm mad at myself because it's the biggest boom period. And people are getting signed left and right, and it's like, what am I doing wrong to where I'm not one of those people? And I'm not going to hold it against any of them because they're all my friends, and I'm super happy for them. But it's like, I feel like I'm missing out, and I'm watching all my friends go, and I need to like catch up to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
That's where I'm at. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to bring to the table next week and going to the Garden State Invitational, this is me trying to answer the question of, well, what the fuck do I need to do to catch up with all my friends?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
no, definitely with your talent, man. I'm pretty sure eyes will be on you, and with your work ethic, for sure, I'm pretty sure you'll get to where you want to get to.
Sure.
Thank you. It's never been a in-ring problem. Like, I don't think that's the stuff I need to change necessarily because I have too many people saying, oh man, the match was awesome. Oh man, the match was awesome. You know what I mean? I'm constantly asking people, gauging how my matches are. As far as like after the match happens at an event, I'll go out and I'll start asking fans what they thought, and then I'll tell them to like point out the things they didn't like. Like, I'm super particular about having the best match of the night, and if I don't, I need to like figure out what can I do more, better, harder. But I don't think it's a question of work rate. why I don't have a contract right now. I think it's a question of everything else.
True.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah, and we're rooting for you for sure. I mean, I think, it's so hard. There's so many different people, so many different personalities, and I'm glad to see that you're finally, I think you're just gonna get there, man. I think this new horse powered gym is gonna really help you. You said you redesigned the character a little bit, did some modifications. So I think these are the things that are really going to help you stick out, and we're hoping for you, man. We're hoping that we could see you one day on TV, no matter where it is.
I appreciate it, man. There's going to be a lot more heavy metal coming up, that's for sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
Definitely, we're not trying to get you excited, but a lot of time we talk to people, a couple of weeks we see them on TV, man. I'm just saying.
Man, I fucking hope so.
For sure.
It has happened, but yeah, it's cool. And the one thing I've always liked about you is that you use social media even before this horsepower gym. How important is it to keep your game on fleek on social media?
Yeah.
Fleek?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 100% important, and even if you think you're doing it good, you can do better.
Uh-huh.
That's what I found. You can get more out of yourself if you set your expectations really high. Even if they're unrealistic and you can't reach them, you're getting more out of yourself just because you're working towards those things. So if you think you're doing good at social media, and let's say if you're a wrestler listening to this and you only have 1,000 followers, if you think that your next goal is 1,100 followers versus if you think your goal is 3,000 followers, you're going to work completely different doing both of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you set your goals really high and you work as hard as you can to get there as fast as you can, you're going to get more results. And social media, that's the best way for people to see you. I haven't had a proper booking. This is my third weekend in a row that I haven't had a booking, but nobody has any idea. And the reason being is so I can train for Circus Maximus, because I've been working out like a fucking madman and lost like 2 inches off my waistline going into the show and this weekend for the Garden State Invitational and for Circus Maximus. But nobody noticed because I kept putting things up every day, and I would promote things for shows coming up. And I had the Horsepower Gym Challenge, which, yeah, it's technically a match, but it's technically also not a match because it was me inviting someone over to my house to record something.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you can work this shit, and I've been doing this stuff since before it was like commonplace, if that makes sense. Do you remember whenever the main way to see wrestling was through fucking Facebook groups?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
I used to blow those things up because nobody else would share their stuff because they were worried about if there was something wrong in the clip or whatever they were sharing that they would get poked fun at.
Yeah.
But I would share it to 100 groups at a time, like legitimately spend 20 or 30 minutes just going down the list of groups that I had until Facebook would block me for 3 days. Share clips of the Viking War Party, yeah. If you look, our first highlight video that I made us has like 3,000 or 4,000 views. And for like a random video that I don't, either of you two probably haven't seen, and that's pretty good numbers, especially back then whenever people weren't clicking on YouTube links right away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing how you were able to use that to your advantage, and it's awesome to see that you're still using it to your advantage.
Like, I don't think it's even an option really anymore.
Like, you have to.
If you don't understand who you are as a gimmick or as a wrestler or maybe even as a person, it's harder to put yourself out there, and then you tend to put whatever you're thinking on the top of your head instead of what you should put. So if you're like, oh man, I'm hungry, what should I go get to eat? That's not a fucking tweet. That's not a social media thing. That's just you thinking out loud.
True, yeah.
That's not engaging. That's not like, interesting. But if I tweet something like, I'm 100% sure I could kill a dragon, I got like 50-something likes the other day because I tweeted that. But that's because I'm starting to feed into the gimmick. Yeah, it's a thought off the top of my head, but it's gimmick related and it's feeding into it. And now people are saying I can kill a dragon, which, in case you're wondering, I fucking can. So,
I believe you. Yeah.
No one's doubting that.
you don't doubt the horsepower.
Yeah.
So if you just like keep doing things along those lines, your social media will just get better. And I'm honestly considering doing a podcast, not weekly episodic or whatever, but I want to just do one episode talks about something you should do, like get a logo, get a custom logo made for your gimmick, so that way whenever people think of you and they see that logo, they automatically associate you with the logo and vice versa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Doing things like that for branding, and then like maybe another week it would be don't do something like don't beg from the crowd to pop every time you do a fucking dive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Just like do's and don'ts, and just leave it to like 7 things you do and then 3 things you don't do, and then just put it out there and see if anybody likes it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea for sure.
Yeah.
And plus, I'm not in competition with you guys because clearly your ratings would whip my ratings ass.
Well, maybe this episode.
Hey man, we all help each other, man.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you're a part of the fam then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let me ask you this: when you have some downtime, you're sitting at home, you're watching some TV. What are some of the stuff that you like to watch or listen to if you like music? What are some of your favorite stuff?
Oh man, I've been listening to so much metal lately. Like, I've been listening to Pantera because I haven't really ever listened to some of their full albums.
Okay.
So Pantera, Exodus, Suicidal Tendencies is one I've been listening to lately too. Who's that good one? I've been getting really into King Diamond lately. So any Merciful Fates fans out there, I'm with you.
So like no pop or anything like that?
I mean, if you're a sissy, yeah, that's fine. You can do that.
Okay, I'll stick with that. Yeah, I mean, I can't turn my back on like Taylor Swift or Selena Gomez.
I mean, you don't have to turn your back because I'll do it for you. I got
Okay,
you covered.
all right.
Don't worry.
Yeah, but you get. Like, do you watch? Have you been catching up? Did you catch up on Game of Thrones? Did you watch that or Stranger Things?
I missed out on Game of Thrones, and honestly, I've been just reading books and stuff for the past 2 months. I've been reading about Steve Jobs and, in particular, how he gave presentations to pitch his different products. I've been reading about how Kiss got their start and everything they did to build themselves. I've been reading about Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Basically things to draw inspiration from, and not just like to copy their blueprint of how they got successful, but to kind of help me shape my own and my plans for the next few months. That's mainly what I read about. I try to associate everything I watch and do to wrestling, and then everything I do in wrestling associates to everything else. So like I build a bunch of weight equipment for wrestling, and now the weight equipment, everybody can use it. So, everything can go to wrestling, and wrestling can work for everything.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Yeah, that's a good mindset to have. Yeah, for sure. When you were getting started, was there any wrestlers that you saw that you were just like, you picked some of their characteristics or the way they wrestled or anything to help mold who you were?
So, are you guys familiar with Dingo Machete?
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
He was the longest reigning IWA Mid-South champion.
Okay, yes.
He helped train me for a period of 2 to 3 months, and he was shorter than me, and this was right before I started having matches. They told me I was going to be a referee, and Dingo was like, you don't need to be a fucking referee. And I'm like, Dingo, they told me I was too small. And he goes, I'm fucking shorter than you. I was the Mid-South World Champion, so don't listen to them.
Yeah.
And so, after that, I started paying more attention to his matches and his mannerisms. And that dude was a fucking badass. He was shorter than me, but he'll kick the shit out of you. So, as far as, picking up mannerisms like that, it's like, Dingo and then the Road Warriors, and that's the main inspirations.
That's dope. That's definitely dope.
The coolest thing is, you feuded with these guys so much, and you've traveled with them with the Hooligans. How? And I heard in an interview prior that you said that you still like to learn from them. Is that still holding up today?
Oh, 100%. If I ever get something that I'm not sure if I should do in the ring, or some, any questions, or like the Horsepower Gym Open Challenge. Devin Cutter was one of the first people I messaged about it because I was like, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Or no, I don't think I pitched it to him that way. I think I was like, hey, I'm going to cut a promo doing this, and you should share it. And I'll know right away if he says, oh, that's a great idea, or if he says, that's the drizzling shits. Like, those are the two options. So he said it was a good idea. So I still, to this day, I'll bounce ideas off of Devin and Mason.
Sure. That must really tighten the bond between you guys, because you make great friends, but you make even better opponents. And you've been able to take that match all over the place. And how solid are all of you guys today?
Well, it's been a while since I've been in the ring with the Hooligans, but I can guarantee, there's no rust on them whatsoever. They still hit the road, every weekend, if not 3 or 4 times in a weekend. They go out and they do unsanctioned pros, one that they hit a lot. They do VOW over in Pennsylvania, I think. Yeah, they hit them up a lot, so they're still hitting the road hard. Alex has been going with them pretty frequently here, so Alex is still, doing his reps and making his rounds. Sure.
When you decided to go solo, and right, it was like a group decision, right? When you decided to do that, how nervous were you, knowing that for so long, you had somebody watching your back, right?
Holy shit! I was like, get ready for this, okay? If you want to talk about a fucking sad warhorse, this is the story. So we're on the way to North Dakota, and Alex and Devin and Mason are all talking about, well, we need to split it up. So I'm like, boy, I really don't want to. And then they're like, no, we think it's a good idea. Alex is ready to do big things for his singles wrestling career. I think you'll do fine. And I'm like, okay. So we split up, but we didn't announce it yet. We just had the remaining, I think, month and a half of bookings. Well, we got canceled off of 2 of the shows that we had booked, and Alex jumped in with the Hooligans and rode with them, and I did not, because I didn't know they had room in the car. I only saw it the day of, whenever I was sitting at home, and I would see that Alex jumped in with them, and I'm like, oh fuck. So I was like, boy, I have no fucking value. Nobody gives a shit whether I wrestle or I don't wrestle. I need to step up my game real hard, otherwise everybody's gonna forget that I was even a wrestler. I was panicking, and we hadn't even split up yet. So my girlfriend was kind enough, Tammy, she convinced me that everything was gonna be fine, and we had a couple nights where I was really freaking out about this. The shit gets to me whenever something that serious happens, because it's everything I've ever known, and now we're just not gonna do it anymore. And I've seen so many tag teams break up on the indies to where whenever they're not together, the magic's gone, so nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was gonna happen to me. So I ended up talking to every fucking promoter that I knew in the Midwest, and I ended up having weekends to where I was doing double shots and triple shots, and at one point I even did 5 shows in 2 days. Just so that way my schedule looked fucking crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I knew it was more important to look in demand than it was to actually have paying bookings at that time. So I was getting $20 a match or $30 a match, because me by myself, especially with the name change to the Warhorse, it wasn't like anybody was clamoring for the Warhorse at that point in time, because they didn't know what the fuck it was. So I would do those shots and do 3 shows in a weekend or 4 shows in a weekend, and it would add up to $60 or $80, and then I'd sell a couple T-shirts. So I'd make my money back, and it was worth it at the time. But that's pretty much what I did. I panicked that I was going to have no bookings, and then I had a drought where there was 2 weekends in a row I didn't have any bookings, and then I was like, fuck, this can never happen again. So I ended up having 18 bookings in 1 month.
Oh wow, yeah, that's definitely that's a lot of work right there, man.
And it's paying off, because you're going to be part of a huge invitational on July 20th for Synergy.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can see it. You've traveled to other countries. You've traveled across the United States. I mean, man, I think the sky's the limit, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope so. That's like, I hear that and I appreciate it, and I totally 100% take the compliment. Like, thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll sit in my gym and I'll work out and I'll think about shit, and I'm like, it's just me in the gym constantly thinking about this stuff and how far can this really go and how hard can I actually work, and what should I do next, what can I do next, and what have I been doing, and stuff like that. So things like this definitely help. Mm-hmm. So not that I'm like an emotional wreck or anything. I'm just
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I hear the war horse, it makes me think of like, medieval times, movies like Gladiator, movies like 300, Leonidas. If someone were to ask you like who's the greatest warrior of all time, what would your answer be?
Before I answer that, at one point somebody thought I was supposed to be a fucking cowboy. I don't know where they got that idea from.
Oh man, that's funny.
But, man, there's been a lot of strong warriors throughout history. Like Achilles.
Yeah.
And fucking Miyamoto Musashi, who wrote the Book of the Five Rings.
Yep.
He was probably the most well-known samurai of any generation. And then, what's his name? Oh, goddamn, Ragnar the Viking. He was very well known. And then Harold Hardrada. Do you guys know about fucking Harold Hardrada? Because I feel like you don't. And I'm about to blow your mind.
Yeah, no,
I'm ready.
This motherfucker was the king of... He was born in Scandinavia. He moved to the Middle East to join the Varangian Guard, which is 100 or so Vikings that were paid by the Arabs in Constantinople to fucking guard and be a special task force, essentially. Yeah. So these Vikings were just going around fucking shit up nonstop for the Arabs. And then eventually, like at one point, they needed to get into a castle. So Harold was like, okay, we'll camp outside the castle for a few weeks so that way they see us, and then we'll have a messenger go to the door. And whenever the messenger went to the door, he said, hey, our leader, Harold, died. So we would like to, have a proper funeral, and then we'll leave. So they brought his casket into the city. Harold was in the casket, and they started having the rite service. And then he busts out of the fucking casket and starts killing people and fucking shit up. And it was awesome.
Oh,
so
man.
then he went back to become the king of Sweden. And he decided, no, this shit isn't enough for me because I'm Harold fucking Hardrada. I need to be the king of England too. So they went to England and they tried to take the crown there, and that's where he died because he was fighting, trying to become the king of England. And Harold Hardrada is the fucking man. So if I had to pick one warrior from history, it's Harold Hardrada.
Harold Hardrada. I'm gonna Google him today, man. He sounds badass.
I thought you were gonna pick like Virgil or somebody.
Jesus Christ.
No. I gotta pick somebody cool. Like.
Thank you.
So there was another point where he saw that there was this whole village, and they had crazy walls too, right? They couldn't get through the fucking walls. So he saw the roofs of the buildings were all thatched. So those meant they're made of hay and straw. So he fucking went out, had all his troops catch a bunch of birds, and like he saw that they would go to their houses and roost in the thatched roofs at the evening, and he lit the fucking birds on fire. So when they flew, they landed on the thatched roofs and lit the village on fire.
Oh
and he
my
didn't have
God.
to fucking do anything.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Why are there not?
Fucking man.
There should be movies made after this guy. That sounds crazy.
He's the greatest guy you've never fucking heard of. He's awesome.
Yeah, seriously, I'm gonna check
Yeah, he
him out.
sounds pretty cool. Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Man,
wow.
that is a crazy. These are some crazy stories.
Yeah. So, also, side note, swear to God, last fucking Viking fact, okay?
All right, yeah, please.
So, I had to look this shit up whenever I was a Viking because I took it very serious. Gotta get in the fucking zone. Anyways, whenever the Varangian Guard was in Constantinople, it was either Constantinople or Alexandria. I can't remember the name of the fucking city.
Okay.
But there's a church called the Hagia Sophia, and a Viking got fucking wasted and climbed into a portion of the roof and carved Viking runes, and it says like Harold was here in Viking runes on the roof of this fucking really magnificent church.
Oh wow. Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, you can find that that shit on Wikipedia. It's awesome.
That's awesome. You know, that is pretty dope. You know, Jake, can you just tell people where they can find you on social media if they want to connect with you?
You can find me at JP Warhorse on Twitter and Instagram, and I've been trying to get my Instagram stories better as of late, so hopefully people are starting to enjoy them, but I'm primarily on Twitter, and then if you want to follow me on Facebook, I'm usually capped out at about 5,000 friends, but that's Jake Parnell, and if you want to follow my like page, it's The Warhorse Jake Parnell. And if you want to see me on some upcoming shows, July 20th is the Garden State Invitational, and you can watch me rule ass and win the tournament.
Nice.
And the day before then, July 19th, is St. Louis Anarchy, and I'm wrestling for the Gateway Heritage Championship against Jeremy Wyatt. I'm going to beat his ass and take the belt, and then win the tournament, and then be the super champ of the universe.
Awesome. Yeah.
Great things coming up for the Warhorse himself. You know, we want to thank you so much for taking up the time and talking with us here at Wrestling IQ 101.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on, because it took me forever to actually get this scheduled right and not have to cancel and reroute things. So I appreciate you guys working with me on this one.
All
good, man.
All good things comes to those who wait. So we're happy we made this work as well. And for us, we've been Wrestling IQ 101. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wrestling IQ 101. You can subscribe right here on YouTube or follow us right here on the B Plus Player Network. And until next week, guys, we'll see you soon.
We're out.